Time once again for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold. With you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. And, look who we have, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star. We're all in Indianapolis. We're all going to be talking about the comments of Brett Veach, Andy Reid, what's been said here about some of the free agents, Trent McDuffie, Travis Kelce, who's coming, who's going. We're talking about all of it right here, right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
All right, thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. We are coming to you on location. Sam retreated to his own spot. Listen, let me tell you one thing that everybody can figure out here. It's good to work for the NFL Network and NFL.com because Sam and I still slaving away over here at the media center at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. It's Jeff Chadiha who's relaxing back at his hotel room. Must be nice, Jeff.
It is nice. Yeah, I just got done watching some of the Soul Power documentary on the ABA on Amazon, and I'm gonna cue up the Pit from HBO Max in a second here, and then we'll all have dinner and hang out. So we'll see each other soon enough.
I like it. That sounds like a plan. All right, let's get into what we heard today. Let's start with the comments. Really today and what we heard at the end of last week, Andy Reid doing his little combine media session by Zoom before everything moved here to Indianapolis. He had the knee procedure, so not taking part in it. Where does it stand right now, Sam, in your mind, with the Chiefs and Travis Kelce after what you've heard from the coach and general manager?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear the Chiefs are still waiting on an answer. And, Brett Veach talked today that to me was a scenario he probably wanted to avoid, which is that he's got two different blueprints, one for Travis Kelce and one that includes him retiring. And I kind of had always viewed this as the time where the Chiefs would really like to have an answer. And look, the Chiefs haven't expressed it that way. I mean, when you deal with a player of this caliber who's given you this much, it's not going to be expressed this way. But obviously, the offseason plan comes together more easily once you know whether or not Travis Kelce wants to come back and then at what price he's willing to come back. And I think it's pretty clear they haven't figured that out quite yet.
Yeah, he used the term dialogue, something we talked about on the radio show, Sam and I today. Dialogue. You're not having dialogue to just say yay or nay, right? You're having dialogue because you're trying to work through some things. At least that's how I see it, Jeff. How's it look to you?
That's exactly how I see it. And this was the question we all had. Like, Travis Kelce loves football, loves playing for this organization, but what does he want to play for? Is he going to love that part of it? And I do think it's a little bit strange that at this stage there's not more clarity to it. And I think hearing Andy Reid talk about it last week, it felt as if, okay, this is moving more in the direction of Travis Kelce coming back. And maybe that's still the case. But hearing Brett Veach talk about it, it felt more like this is more of a gray area. And I do think it's not the spot Brett Veach wants to be in, because he's got to figure out how to sign free agents and how to build a plan about signing guys back, letting guys go, signing free agents. And that's a lot harder to do if you're thinking about Travis Kelce is going to be in the middle of all this, and what is he going to want? So look, you don't want to push the guy if you're the Chiefs, but you do want to have an answer pretty soon to make your life a lot easier.
I felt all along, Sam, that the longer it went, the more likely it was that he would be back, and that has now changed. Like, we've gotten to the point that I think we would have gotten that answer. Now I feel like the longer it goes, or at least it's starting to shift. Maybe I don't want to completely say, oh, okay, the clock ticking is a bad sign. But it feels like sometime pretty soon, if not now, the longer it goes means they're not going to get to where they need to go, or do you see it differently?
Well, I mean, you're at least coming up on that point. I don't know if this has arrived at that point, but I mean, free agency is 2 weeks away and 3 weeks away now. And it's like, you've got to have 2 weeks away.
Yeah, March 11th. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to have an answer. Like, you've got to be able to map out your offseason blueprint. And look, I think the important thing about Travis Kelce is whether or not he returns or not, he cannot be your number one receiver. I've said that many times. But is he a part of the plan? Like, let's face it, like, Noah Gray's a potential cut candidate. I mean, when you look at the contract there, you can't afford to cut that if Travis Kelce is coming. Like, you don't even know what money you have to work with. How much money do you need to set aside for Travis Kelce? I mean, all your offseason blueprint relies on how much do I have to spend? And
March 11th.
When you don't know the Travis Kelce answer, you don't know that answer either.
Yeah, March 11th is the beginning of free agency, I believe, Jeff. What would you think that Brett Veach is putting as drop dead day?
I would probably say it's March 10th. I think you probably want to, and be honest with you, you're already starting to do deals before March 11th, so you probably want to have it probably March 4th, at least a week out. So maybe a week from now, because it's not just the money and they're pounding up to Travis Kelce, but it's also they've got two main receivers from last year under contract, the wide receivers, and Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. So you want to know, do we go out and find a receiver who can be more impactful and not have to rely on a Travis Kelce to be that guy? But this whole thing tells me is that the Chiefs are pushing back a lot more and not just saying, hey, whatever you want to do, Travis, we'll accommodate you. Let's make it work. I think that and that may be affecting the negotiations, that maybe he doesn't like hearing that there is a little more of a, wow, this isn't just all about 100% loving Travis Kelce anymore.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more work that goes into it. I think once your skills start to diminish, right? Like, and that's the case. We've got to define the value. And generally speaking, the player's value in his mind is different than where the team value is. And so I think this is a pretty unique situation. And the question is, the fan backlash, like, right? That's like, how much is years of service and popularity worth to a team? We're going to find out. At least find out what he's worth to this team. I think that's fair to say. Let's talk about Trent McDuffie, where we're at right now. How does this end? What's the outcome, Sam, for Trent McDuffie and the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, I think all three of us have predicted the same outcome for a year now, which is that the most likely scenario, the most sensible scenario, is probably going to be the hardest thing to do, which is parting with an two-time All-Pro player. And, I mean, we've seen what the cornerback market has done over the past couple of years, and it's hard to figure out when you look at the other numbers out there how the Chiefs could fit that sort of number into their own salary cap in their own situation, in which case, I don't anticipate that Trent McDuffie is just going to be playing on the fifth-year option this year. I think you'll see him have a long-term contract, and the question is it with the Chiefs or not? And because of the circumstances I just mentioned, I've always thought, all three of us have long been saying that we've always thought it's more likely it's going to have to be with somebody else. And look, I've talked to some people here over the past 24 to 48 hours that I've been here that anticipate that there would be quite a robust trade market, I think, for Trent McDuffie, to where I think that they, as much as Jeff, I think, could really speak to this, is what is his real position? Is he a slot cornerback? Is he an outside cornerback? But I think he's good enough as an outside cornerback and elite at the inside that it wouldn't surprise me if you could get a first-round pick. Or maybe you could get a second at plus, something of that sort. I think there'll be a market for him if that's the route that the Chiefs choose to go.
Jeff, what do you see here? I mean, anything change? We heard Brett Veach say today at his press conference that, top of the list, talk to Trent McDuffie tomorrow. So that conversation will begin. But he had conversations back at training camp, last summer. So it didn't get done then. What's different now when he goes to talk to him?
Well, I'm sure the Chiefs, I'm sure Brett Veach is approaching it as, can we get him for a bargain? Can we find a way to get him for less than market value and make it work? I mean, which is sensible. They like the guy. He's been a big part of their program. All these guys that are on the table, potential free agents, they'd love to have them back. It comes down to the number that's in play. But, yeah, I do think as you get further down the road with this, that there is going to be more of a conversation about let's move him, let's get some assets for him. And I really think they're in I don't want to say it's they're playing with house money with him as far as the fan base. You mentioned the Travis Kelce thing, but I do think there's more of an understanding of if they had to trade him, there's value there. And there is a lot of possibility in making your team stronger. This team's got 6 first-round picks. I mean, six draft picks in this year's draft. They've got limited options in free agency. They want to get younger and stronger. And there's a very real argument to be made that Trent McDuffie has done the most he can do for this franchise already, and that to maximize his value would be the smart player.
Let me ask you this, Soren. How different do you think this conversation would be if last season's offense unfolded differently? If you didn't sign Nick Bolton to that kind of money, if you didn't sign Trey Smith to that kind of money, I don't know that we'd be having the same conversation. I think the three of us would at least pose the question, but Jeff and I just reached the same solution. I think you agree with that resolution being the most likely outcome, even if it's not a certain outcome. Would any of the three of us predict that as the most likely outcome if last offseason had gone differently?
You know, I'll even attack that. I'll turn it around and go the other direction. I mean, I think last offseason went the way it went because I'm assuming they anticipated how this one's going to go, right? Like, you know, Brett Veach has said a couple of times about talking to CAA. Well, that's the same group that represented Trey Smith, right? Scott Boras does things a certain way. He's probably the most famous agent in all of sports because of how he handles the negotiations. Well, there's a mode to how this agency works. We saw it with Trey Smith. They talked to Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith at the same time. Creed Humphrey got a deal done. They ended up having to franchise Trey Smith a year later, and then ultimately got a deal done by making him the highest paid guard in football. I will point out Creed Humphrey was also made the highest paid center in football without doing this, but that's kind of their mode. And so I'm assuming that the ask is going to be huge in this situation. But to your point, Sam, no. Like if you'd walked on the middle linebacker, I think everyone would agree the corner is the more premium position. But I think they also agree we're really good at developing these guys. So, you know, I'm not sure which happened first. Was it we just couldn't say no to Nick Bolton, our Mike guy, for Steve Spagnuolo? Steve didn't want to let him go, and so we did it. Now we're kind of over a barrel here. Or was part of the reason why they gave Steve Spagnuolo his Mike linebacker was because they thought this is going to be a tough sign when we get to Trent McDuffie anyway. And so we can go round and round about this, but their plans have maybe always been set. But I do think I want to go back to what Sam said, because I think the question he mentioned, Jeff, for you was a good one. What is he and what is he worth and where does he rank? Is he a slot? Is he an outside guy? Does he deserve? Because if you're the best corner on the market, you're going to ask for more money than any corner's ever had, whether you're the best corner or not. You're just the best one available. How do you think, you know, the ask is coming from him?
I'm sure he's going to value himself as an outside corner who can play slot. And that's because that's where the money's at. You're not going to go in and say, I'm a slot guy. Give me what Kenny Moore got paid from Indianapolis. And that was much less than what Sauce Gardner and J.C. Horn, those are the kind of guys got, Patrick Surtain. And so he's going to advertise himself as an outside corner. I think he's solid enough out there to make the case. First round still seems high to me, but if you're getting a first round pick for Trent McDuffie, you make that trade tomorrow. if you're Brett Veach, there's any questions about that. Now, and I do think it has to happen pretty quickly. Just as with Travis Kelce, if you're going to make a trade for him, you want to do that at the start of free agency so you can start looking around for other guys and you can give other teams an opportunity to make the best offers for him, have a bidding war. And so this could happen really quickly if he's going to get traded.
Yeah, and I first of all, it surprised me, and this was I want to clarify. This is not something that's been presented, and I know Jeff, you didn't take it this way, but I just want to clarify. It's not something that I understand that's been presented to the Chiefs or anything of that sort. It's when I talk to people here in the business to say, what is his value? What do you think he could generate? That it's pretty common that I hear back that the answer is first round pick could be in play for someone of that caliber.
Yeah, and that's like you said. I think we'd all agree that that's a deal that's going to happen. If that offer gets out there, then that's a deal that's going to happen. All right, we want to get into some of the free agents, Jaylen Watson, Bryan Cook. Some of these names came up with Brett Veach here at the Combine. We'll talk about where that's headed after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Concrete season is in full swing and asphalt paving is revving up. So right now is the time to get your property on the schedule with GAN Asphalt and Concrete. Whether you need new concrete work, a parking lot repaved, crack filling, seal coating, or full asphalt installation, their experienced crews handle it all right here in Kansas City. Don't wait until the rush hits. Call today for a free bid and secure your spot before the calendar fills up. Get the process started right now at GANasphalt.com. That's GANasphalt.com. GAN Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about some of the other names that were mentioned here, Sam. Bryan Cook, Jaylen Watson. They were thrown around. Leo Chenal's a big one as well. We can talk about Isaiah Pacheco if you want. They're not going to be able to sign all these guys. They're going to be able to sign any of them. And who do you think is most likely to be in the mix?
Yeah, I this offseason I think is a little bit more mysterious for the Chiefs' own free agents because two of those top three guys, I think, when you think of Watson, Cook, Leo Chenal, I really don't know what their market is. I think Jaylen Watson, it seems pretty understandably, you could compare it to like the Charvarius Ward deals that he's had. But when you look at the couple others, I mean, I don't know what the market's going to be for Bryan Cook. I really don't know what the market's going to be for Leo Chenal. The three of us have talked about, we don't even know what other teams are going to determine where he should play on the field. Is he a 3-4 outside backer for somebody else? Do they want to play him the way that the Chiefs play him? And so I don't know the answer to what their market's going to be, and I think that is going to dictate whether or not the Chiefs can afford him. My guess on all three of these guys, when you look at their top three, is it's going to be keep in touch. We know you're going to explore the market. We know that if you get a deal, you're going to sign. Just keep in touch if it doesn't materialize the way you anticipate.
Yeah. Do you think that one should be prioritized over the other, Jeff, on trying to make something happen? Is one of them worth a stretch more so to this franchise?
Well, I'm sure Jaylen Watson would be the top of the list because he plays the premier position, right? I mean, you can find safeties and you can find edge-type players who have versatility like a Chenal, but yeah, Watson's going to be the guy, but his market's going to be high. I mean, all three of these guys are probably going to be, I don't want to say overpaid, but they're going to be very nice offers from somebody. And I'd be shocked because really the free agent market is kind of depressed this year. There aren't a ton of really, it's not loaded with talent in the way it has been in previous years. I think I saw one chart to have Cook as like a top 30 player. I think Chenal was high on another list. And so that stuff matters. And there's teams out there, young teams, that have a lot of salary cap space, including a couple, or I think the Raiders and the Chargers are the top 5 in the league right now in cap space. And so within your own division, you have people who can start poaching talent from you. So I'd be shocked if these guys weren't getting great offers. And Sam's right. I'm sure Veach's mentality is, if something falls through the cracks and you don't hear what you like, come back to us. But to be able to play in that neighborhood with some of these guys, it's going to be hard.
Listen, you know where I sit on corners. Like I think they're a first contract only, and you walk away because I think the downslope, they fall off a cliff as fast as running backs do. I think it's such a quick twitch position, and I don't think you want to be spending. I mean, this kind of goes back to McDuffie, $30 million on a corner that 2 years from now you say is got to play safety, because then you've got an exorbitantly expensive safety. So, and Jaylen Watson, I think, is 28 years old, or going to be 28 years old, maybe before next year gets started. So you're starting to get to the end of where I think you can be a productive player, right? Bryan Cook plays a position that you can last longer, and Leo Chenal is probably the youngest. Like, which one would you make a stretch, and how would you line them up, Sam, if you had to?
I wouldn't make a stretch for any of them. Two of them because of the position they play, and the other one because you draft and develop his position really well when you're talking about Jaylen Watson. So I don't think I think all three of these guys have been really valuable, especially this last year. I thought that Bryan Cook was terrific last year. I thought Jaylen Watson was terrific. Like, what a great time for those two to enter free agency. What a bad time for the Chiefs to have those guys enter free agency, because I think it would require that exact word you just said, Soren, which is stretching. And I just don't think the Chiefs are in a spot to do that. I think that's one of the reasons they're here, is they stretched the budget to retain their own over the past couple of years.
This is also part of a frustrating conversation about how they develop talent, because you should have started getting guys like Noah Williams ready to play. You should have started getting guys like Jaden Hicks ready. Like, they are going to have a gap now with these guys walking out the door, and the guys that you didn't trust to be on the field as much this past year being able to play at a higher level. And so that's on the management of this that I think they have to improve on moving forward.
Or is that just, what they did back when they drafted this crew? They're burning the boats. Like, these guys are going to be gone, and they're going to have to play them, because we know that's not necessarily Steve Spagnuolo's first choice, and this is their way of burning the boats and saying no other choice. You got to play Jaden Hicks. They're not right. That may be the path that they're taking in this run as well.
Well, I guess if you go cheap at a position, which you're going to have to with the situation the Chiefs are in, I think you're going to have to eat it somewhere. And I think your third linebacker should be one of those somewheres, and potentially safety might have to be another.
Speaking of third linebacker, they can save some money by cutting Drew Tranquil. If you can get the right number for Leo Chenal, you cut Drew Tranquil, and that's where you'd stay a little bit younger, get a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical at a time the teams are playing a little bit more run. Jeff, is that the possible path? Again, if the number's right.
Yeah, well, is he almost 32? Is he 32? Am I right about that? Tranquil,
I think so. Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Chenal that should be factored into this whole conversation is just like, they don't know what to do with him. And so it'd be different if there was a clearer path for him to play a bigger role with you. But if you start paying guys more money, I'd rather you have a very specific position for him to be at. And he's always been best at being this kind of wild card defender that Spagnuolo can use whenever he wants to. I don't think you want to pay a guy like that a whole bunch of money to be in that role.
Yeah, 30, going to be 31 in August on Tranquil, so not quite as old. I was thinking of that as well. Yeah, Chenal does look to me like a 3-4, either inside or outside linebacker, like that. A bigger guy that's going to provide some thump, and that is positional fit. We've seen it be an issue with defensive ends. With guys that Steve Spagnuolo just doesn't seem to be able to get on the field. Who's anyone, Sam, you think is more likely to give like a hometown discount and end up back?
The NFL Combine and all of our coverage.
Yeah, no, I don't really see any of these three, because I don't think any of these three have been paid at a premium level to where Jaylen Watson's made 7th round pick money.
Yeah.
And so, no, I mean, I think for all three of these guys, it's their one opportunity to cash in a real way.
We heard $60 million in convertible bonuses was one of the things he mentioned, that's out there. Is that something they should be doing at this point, Sam? We've talked big picture about where to go with it, but, is that a real option for this team to try to bring somebody back now? And should they be focusing on that? Or because for me, I heard that and I was like, oh, no. Why is this being discussed? But I'm always team play the long game. And so I would have missed on some really good opportunities that they've cashed in on by not doing it that way. What was your reaction when you heard that?
Yeah, same as yours. But I will say, like, that does hit it. Part of the crux of this Chiefs off season is which year are you playing for? Or because next year you have more financial flexibility than you do this off season. Theoretically, I don't think you do want to cut Nick Bolton, but that contract is one you can get away from next year. And there's some other ones on the books as well. So are you playing for 2026? That's going to be difficult. Or are you playing for 2027? And neither one of those options say you throw away the other season, but that needs to be part of the conversation they have in that room. And the convertible bonuses fits squarely into the answer to that conversation.
Yeah. What do you think when you hear him mentioning that, Jeff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, the same thing. Like, this is not a road you want to be going down, and it does speak to the bigger question about, is this team built, or is this organization built around the idea of getting Andy Reid as many shots at the championships as it can before he goes out the door, or is it built around the idea of looking down the road and having this window for Patrick Mahomes extended as large as possible to capitalize on that? I don't think they'll do anything as far as going down this road and getting into the convertible bonus situation, but yeah, I do think it's a challenge for them to have to be able to say, are we going to be okay with maybe a winning 9 or 10 games next year? Is that going to be okay? Because when the Denver Broncos, granted, different situation, got rid of Russell Wilson, everybody was like, what's going to happen to them? And now look where they are now. When the Rams started getting those people 2 years ago, and they went all in, people were like, they'll never see them again. Look where they are now. Like, there is life at the other side of this tunnel if you're willing to go down this road. But I think it's always going to be a challenge for this team because of who plays quarterback and what kind of success they've had over the last 7 years.
I'd add one other thing to that, which is, why would you shove all your chips into the table and worry about the consequences later when this is the year that your quarterback's question is a health? Your quarterback's health is a question. Like, that should factor into that too.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of the equation. And, to me, it's always a time to reset, maintenance versus, I mean, do you get the sense, Sam, from listening to Brett Veach, that he recognizes that, this is not just, filling a couple of holes that they have? We talked about on the radio show, the exercise we did last week where we went through each position and showed exactly what was on the roster and that they're really thin in a lot of places. Do you think that is Brett Veach is aware of that to the degree that we seem to be?
Yes. I think we heard that from him today on the podium. I mean, we should go back through over those 15 minutes and see how many positions he listed on his own. When he was asked about potentially drafting a running back at number 9, he brought up the fact that you always need to start with O-line and D-line. He brought up the separation in the defensive line as far as defensive tackles, edge rushers. He brought up wide receiver at some point. And then none of those are filling the 3 positions of their top free agents that we just mentioned, who play cornerback, linebacker, and safety. And so, yeah, I think he has to be acutely aware of the fact that he's already wanted these preferences, and now he's going to have to backfill some guys he's going to be losing. I think anytime you map out what you want to do in the offseason, that has to smack you in the face.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Jeff. He's also watched 2 teams win Super Bowls with teams that were constructed and very differently than what this team has been constructed as. And so they've been able to rely on superstars for a long period of time and not have to face the consequences of not being as deep. And that's changed now, right? When you watch Seattle play, you watch the Eagles the year before, it's like they've got a lot of talent. And it's hard to get a lot of talent unless you're willing to make some tough calls.
Yeah, they've got that. But there's also then a 68-year-old head coach, right? Like, how much of, listen, the boss is the boss, and you've won 3 championships with him and 5 conference championships. So, is it, maybe not about Brett Veach recognizing it, Sam? Do you get a sense from what we heard last week during Andy Reid that Andy Reid recognizes that maybe a pause and a step back to take 2 steps forward is necessary?
His evaluation has been much more scheme than roster, right? I mean, when we've heard him talk publicly since the season, and we've certainly heard him talk more incremental than big picture overhauls that he thinks the team need. I mean, look, at the end of the day, and the way that we evaluated this team a year ago and said, yeah, they were 15-1 with their starters, but a lot of close games in there. I think you have to put that same spin and fairness on this season and say, yeah, 6-8, but a lot of close games in there that went the wrong way. So I'm not disputing at all the fact that Jeff could be totally right about spinning it up to try and win 9 or 10 games next year. I'm saying this team was better than that last year. Like this team was at least a 9 or 10 win football team that just didn't close out games in the way they did the year before. So your question, Soren, I think plays into how far away are they really? They're definitely far away from winning a Super Bowl. Are they far away from being in the dance? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well,
I think
are they?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead, sir. I was going to say also, are they equipped to deal with how long? I think the last 7 years has been we've got Patrick Mahomes and we can do whatever we want as long as he's on the field. Now it's like, what's he going to be moving forward? And a quick story here, and I'll let you go, Soren. It's just like I remember going to see the Cincinnati Bengals years ago when Marvin Lewis was a coach, and he was watching tape of Peyton Manning, and he's like, "Hey, watch this film. What do you see?" And I said, "I see Peyton Manning," and he was like, "Watch this throw. What do you see?" I see him throwing like a 18-yard out. He's like, he can't throw that ball anymore the same way. Like most people can't see it, but he can't do it in the same way. And that was the beginning of the shift in Peyton Manning's career. And the Chiefs are about to go through a shift with Patrick Mahomes. Maybe not to the extent if he can't make this throw, but he's not going to be able to do some things that he could do before. And that means they got to change their mentality about how they build a team around him.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. But I think it's also I'll bring it back on Andy Reid, 68 years old. Can Andy Reid do the things he did before? Right? Does he have the time to be on the cutting edge of everything? I think that's part of the equation as well. And he still wants to call the plays. I mean, it doesn't sound like he's going to adjust anything that he's doing, which is where I wonder, okay, are you seeing the things that need to change? Like he's making changes to the coaching staff, let's be clear. And I think guys are going to be leaving. I mean, there are bold moves that are being made. I think the question is whether or not they make all the bold moves. I think that's going to be an important part of the equation here. Want to get into the offense, what it needs. Brett Veach spoke about that. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete is looking to grow their team. If you have heavy construction foreman experience with heavy equipment, asphalt or concrete labor, or just want to learn a new trade, contact Gann Asphalt and Concrete to join their team today. Top of the market pay, company provided insurance, and paid time off and holiday pay are just a few of the great reasons to join Gann's expanding team. Learn more about this great opportunity with Gann at GannAsphalt.com/careers. That's GannAsphalt.com/careers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. All right, let's turn our attention to the biggest need on the offense. Brett Veach called it explosive runs, Sam. So the running back is obviously, everybody can see it. They need it. But he went into a little bit more detail. How'd you react to what he had to say about their biggest offensive need?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's what stood out to me most. It's what I'm writing a column on today, because this is a dilemma the Chiefs have this offseason. Their biggest problem from a year ago, their most obvious problem, I'll say, from a year ago, does not have an obvious solution. Because this is not a position that you want to be investing a ton of capital, whether that's top draft capital, first-round pick at 9 overall, whether that's spending $10 million a year, which, by the way, we don't even know that Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are going to be available. Those two teams may franchise tag those guys and rip that decision out of the Chiefs' hands anyway. But they have to get better in the running game somehow. And so if it's not going to be through getting premier talent through the draft or free agency, they're going to have to look at how else they can get better at the running game with the scheme changes that you two mentioned in the last segment. Like, they've got to look at all facets involved, because he's undoubtedly right that this is the most glaring thing that they can improve.
Yeah, it makes everything better if they can get easy yards, easy first downs by just calling simple runs and physically beating somebody. The fact that he verbalized it, Jeff, I mean, I don't know. I think if he tried to say they didn't have a problem with the run game, we'd be talking about firing him. So I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like, right? I don't think he split an atom here or anything.
Well, he wasn't asked about the running game in that question, though. To be fair, he was just
asked about the offense,
where you can most improve, and that's where he went to it right away. Not, again, it's what he should see, but I just wanted to clarify. It's like, it's not just, hey, what do you think of the running game last year?
Yeah.
But he also framed it in a way that Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, Clean Chadiha, they are straight to this team. And so that to me was the important thing. He said it wasn't so much about we got to go find a guy who can do what Kenneth Walker can do or Saquon Barkley can do. They have to go find a way to run behind these guys and utilize them more because they are a strength. And that means a different type of run, right? That means a more power-oriented run game, a more quick-hitting run game, which they really haven't been excited about using. So that's one way of improving your run game.
100%.
Yeah, and do we like, you could be taken as like, look, he's the guy who engineered the second most expensive offensive line in football. He's the guy that engineered, he re-signed all the guys. He drafted a second round, tackle that he's moved to guard, a first round tackle out there. And for it to not be effective, there is a little bit of him. I agree with him. I mean, I think football experts agree with him that Creed Humphrey's really good, that Trey Smith is really good. We know Josh Simmons was rated very highly before he got hurt. So I think there is a feeling that, hey, we've spent here. That's not the problem, right? Which does take us back, though, a little bit, Sam, too. But this isn't one of the coaches you changed, right? If you believe in those people and you're saying these guys can play, I do think it is schematic. I mean, listen, we go back to Eric Eager. We all saw Eric here. He was pounding the drum back in the day on this podcast about too many RPOs. That's Andy Heck doesn't make that decision. Andy Reid does. But a little bit of it is got to be, hey, if you believe in these guys, why weren't they more productive?
I actually think you could argue they did change his position because Andy Heck has long been the run game coordinator. And is Eric Bieniemy now going to take that as part of the offensive coordinator to where he's going to be handling the running game? And I mentioned some of these stats with you today, Soren, but on your radio show. But over the weekend, I just looked up their success with RPOs, and it was just staggering. Like their success rate with RPOs, they were
staggeringly bad. I want to be clear. Yeah.
Their average their yards per carry on RPOs this year was 3.7 yards per carry, 28th in the league. But they did it more often than anybody in the league. And like when you want to have an elite offense and you do something more frequently than any team in the league, you better be better than 28th in the league and doing it. And so, I think absolutely. I heard it the same way that Jeff did, which is it wasn't like when you're highlighting those three guys in the middle, I think you're saying, let's use these three guys in the middle.
Yeah, I would agree. What does DeMarco Murray bring to the equation, Jeff? How much does he factor in, the fact that, and it's DeMarco Murray plus Eric Bieniemy, right, being in that equation as well. What does that change?
I don't know. To me, it's curious because he was not an NFL guy. He was obviously at Oklahoma, and he does not have that experience. Maybe they're looking at it like we get younger guys in here. Let's bring somebody to be more closer to their age, more familiar with what they're dealing with. Understanding what it's like, guys getting paid NIL money. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I think that the intangible part of it is not just coaching the position, but understanding the kind of players you're going to get may be a part of this process. That, Eric Bieniemy obviously has traditionally been very hard on running backs and a grinder, and maybe this is a different personality. And then he's got street cred too. I mean, he was a very successful running back in the league, and so that helps as well. So I'm just glad the guy played the position. Yeah, coaching, because that's a great start, right? that alone gives him an advantage.
Yeah, you think that comes up in the interview? Did you play this position at some point?
Yeah. So you're familiar with it. He is one of only two Oklahoma running backs to ever lead the NFL in rushing. Did you know that? Like everyone would remember Adrian Peterson, but DeMarco Murray led the NFL in rushing 1 year as well. And I like what Jeff said, Sam. The age, they do have a lot of older coaches. It's not bad to have and I am a believer, sitting front and present. A few gray hairs are important. Some experience is an important thing. But I also think relatability is something as well. And this coaching staff, you want good coaches. Coaches can be good before they're 60. Okay, so I do think that might help. Relatable. Oh yeah, I mean this is a guy that some of these kids will maybe remember playing. Right. And that might have an impact as well.
Well, and the other, first of all, we've seen a lot of teams do this, plug from college this offseason. And it seems to me, without having the data in front of me, that it's a higher number. And I think it's beyond just the relatability. It's the fact that the college athlete is a lot different. than they were when the current NFL coaches were knew these guys coming up, or when they came through the college ranks. And some of them are making more money than some NFL players. And I think that's something you have to deal with in your locker room. And I think those coaches that have been in the college system are going to be more equipped to handle that on an immediate basis, to where, I mean, Jaylen Watson is a 7th-round pick who's getting ready to probably make $15 million. There's undoubtedly were college players making more money than he was a year ago. And that's just that's a reality you got to deal with. And I think that's part of the reason that you're getting more college coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're right. There are a lot of guys making more money in college. I'm out here playing 18 games, 17 games, and playoff games, and these guys are playing 12 and getting more than me. What the hell is this? It's a new world for sure. Let's talk about Mike Danna. He got released, but they have not released Jawaan Taylor, right? Tell me about the strategy on this, Sam.
Well, I mean, Brett Veach said at the podium today, it was just Mike Danna was in the building. So I don't know what he said. Hey, while you're here, do you mind bringing in your key card to the office while you're here, while we got you? So I think really it is I believed him when he said that. I think their plans were to cut Mike Danna, and I think he wanted to I think he respected him at a level to where if he could have the conversation with him in person, he wanted to. And look, I mean, you won't find a member of the coaching staff and front office who doesn't love Mike Danna. I mean, he is a great person in that room. He's great to talk with. He's beloved by his teammates. And my guess is that had something to do with wanting to have the in-person conversation if the opportunity presented itself the way it did.
Jawaan Taylor is inevitable, though, the cut. Jeff, do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they know that's coming. And they don't have to do it today. But, yeah, I don't know how you can even be raising the point about convertible bonuses and not be talking about before you even get to that point. I mean, you're not going to come out and say, hey, we're getting rid of Jawaan Taylor, but I think we all understand that they don't have any reason to keep him anymore. Finances don't make any sense, and they are. Look, I do believe Veach is very sincere when it comes to some of this stuff, and I do think that the comment he made about wanting to give Mike Danna a chance to get out free agency and save them some money, by the way, as well, is valid. And maybe he does want to have that same moment with Jawaan Taylor to say thanks for being here and helping us win a championship. And I do think that's part of his MO.
Let me ask this, because Brett Veach ended his comments about Mike Danna was saying, and then we'll see. Like, we maybe could keep in touch with the player, because this is what we talked about, the 3 top free agents. The market doesn't materialize, then what? We've talked a lot on this podcast over the past month and even couple of months about the fact that you've got to move into this new wave if you're the Chiefs. And Mike Danna is a great guy in the locker room. But do you even get the symbolism of moving on if that's a guy that at the end of the day, training camp arrives, he's still sitting there and you're like, let's go back to Mike Danna?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point. I mean, I don't think if you walk on Jawaan Taylor, you're going to go back to Jawaan Taylor, because I don't think you're going to have the opportunity, right? I think even for all the frustration, all the frustration that Chiefs fans has with the penalties and all that kind of thing, he's going to get gobbled up. He'll be signed, and I think that might be part of it, Jeff. Right? Is just yes, you're going to cut. You need the money, but control assets as long as you can, right? And this is gamesmanship just for not letting somebody else build their plan around knowing that he's there. Everyone expects it, but I don't have to make it a reality. You gotta burn time, burn reps in your free agency meeting on what if Jawaan Taylor's out there, what if he's not?
Yeah, certainly that's part of it. And it's also, look, I think that, I think I'm talking in combination of Mike Danna and Jawaan Taylor. I think that they need to be gone just because it gives you opportunities to find better players with cheaper options who can help you more. And we talked about, Buffalo Bills signing Joey Bosa last year for whatever it was, $12 million, 1 year, $12 million. It's like you want to be in position to make those kinds of moves to find guys who can be more effective for you at cheaper costs. And so, yeah, I mean, Jawaan Taylor, whenever it happens, it's going to happen. Whenever it happens, that's fine. But I do think I'm curious to see how they attack those players who are in that realm of not super expensive, some red flags around them. And they picked the right guys this time, because they picked the wrong guys this past off. Elijah Mitchells and the guys like that.
Christian Fulton, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, the running back prices are going up, and so it's one of the reasons why when you get opportunities to get good guys, you got to seize it, right? Whether it's Joey Bosa on the 1-year deal or Javonte Williams, who ended up, is a guy that, if you signed to a multi-year deal last year, could have probably had for 3 years, $12 million, and then now, signs 1 for 3. Prove it deal. Maybe you couldn't have got it done. Maybe he's like, no, I just want to go somewhere where they're going to give me the ball. And now Dallas is paying him $8 million a year. So yeah, I do think you're absolutely right about having the pieces that you need when you need them. All right, we got Combine really gets revved up. We got all the workouts and everything, and so a lot more. Anything you want to hear or learn from here at the Combine, Sam? One more thing, one more nugget that you're going to be questioning about here as we move forward?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly look. I mean, it's not the end all be all, but you're always curious who the Chiefs are talking to, what players are willing to share that, are willing to get into how those meetings went, and tomorrow morning it kicks off with defensive linemen, which obviously I think is a position that we all think the Chiefs should be heavily interested in. So, Ruben Bain's scheduled to talk, David Bailey's scheduled to talk. I'll be interested to see what those guys have to say.
Yeah. How about you? What are you looking at, for the Combine, Jeff?
Yeah, well, it's a lot more fun, when you're talking about the Chiefs picking in the top 10, because you want to see, like, you look at these guys differently, right? When you're here in the past, they come through and they're all just kind of names and faces or whatever, but now you're looking at guys like, does this guy really fit, and how long is this guy's arms, and how big is he? I'm curious to see how these guys measure up physically, how they do in these interviews, how they come across in some of these press conferences they're going to be in, because it's going to be a long process. We're going to hear a lot about a lot of these guys over the next 3 or 4, or actually 2 or 3 months before the draft really comes around.
Yeah, and all the rumors get going. They're all here, so they'll all be talking, and the rumors will start flying out here pretty soon here from the Combine. Listen, you can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold by supporting our great sponsors, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. They're hiring. They're looking for experienced asphalt and concrete paving foremen, operators, laborers. If you're looking for a trusted company who offers top-of-the-market pay, company-provided insurance, PTO, and many more benefits, go to GannAsphalt.com/careers to find out more about Gann Asphalt and Concrete. And our friends at Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyer, serving KC for more than 40 years. Voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. If you've been hurt in an accident and have a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying